I really think that there is a big collective initiation that is going on at the moment. And in my opinion, that big collective initiation has to do with being out of resistance to our own light, to our own empowerment. What I mean by that is, on so many levels, we have been trusting our darkness more than we have been trusting our light, more than we have been trusting our power, and more than we have been trusting our inner divinity. And in this video, I would love to dive into the reasons why our divinity, our inner divinity, or power, why it scares us, and how we can begin to rewire that. If you're new here, my name is Xavier Dagba, and the whole purpose of this space is to spark conversations that ignite self-liberation. And let's talk about why we resist all light. I'd love to lay down a few main reasons that feel pretty obvious, in my opinion. There are some that are very obvious, and there are others that are actually not so obvious. So I'm inviting you to hang in there and to see what resonates most with you. One of the main reasons, actually, there is a huge degree of disbelief. For so many people, when it comes to achieving the things that are deeply meaningful to them or shining, if we're going to use that word, in the best of their ability, there's a certain degree of disbelief that is attached to it. As if, we don't trust ourselves to be either worthy or capable of going there, of carrying it out in the world. And that's one of the main reasons why sometimes we attempt to sell ourselves out of that, out of what we deeply desire. And it's something that I've done so many times in my own life. And I'm going to take the example of the work I'm doing right now. Several years ago, 2014, when I decided to quit my PhD in economics and to lean even more into this work, there's a huge feeling of disbelief, of feeling unworthy. And what I did after that was to create what I like to call many different shadow careers. Just because I didn't see myself leaning in there. I was like, who am I? Who am I to be able to do this? Who am I to be able to support people? Who am I to be able to facilitate healing work for people? Who am I to be able to coach people? And I was totally in disbelief. And I stayed in there for so many years. And instead of leaning directly into what I'm doing at the moment, what I did was, started as a fitness trainer, opened up a gym in Montreal. I thought this is what I wanted to do. And every single time I would make that decision, I could really feel that no, this is not what I am here to do. So I had started all these things as a way to basically distract myself to a certain degree. Now, the flip side of that, which brought me quite a bit of inner balance and acceptance, was realizing it was also part of the stepping stones, if I'm going to call it that way. And it allowed me to work out the feeling of unworthiness. So that's a big part of it. It's a really, really big part of it. The other thing that I would love to bring up as one of the reasons why we resist or light our own empowerment, I'd love to bring up loss. There's a big amount of loss that is included in going after what we deeply value. And what are we actually losing? Let me put it this way. Sometimes, in order to go after what you deeply value, you're going to need to change. You're going to need to make new decisions in your life. You're going to need to lean into intuitive impulses that scare the hell out of you. You're going to need to eventually get out of some relationships that are not necessarily in line with who you are becoming. You're going to need to set up new boundaries. And all of that comes with consequences. And if you are unwilling to embrace the consequences that come from the decision of going after more of your light, it's going to be deeply challenging to actually open up to it. It creates a big, big, big resistance within when we are so clear on the fact that we're going to have to go through the period of loss. You know, there is another thing that I like to bring up here, a loss that is not so evident. And so many people don't like to hear this, but sometimes we get attached to our own disempowerment because there are a few benefits that come from it. You know, for example, when I was in a place where nothing was working out for me in my life, and I had people around me that needed some degree of support, family that needed some degree of support, and I wanted to, but for some reason I didn't have the capacity to be there emotionally, mentally to support, for example, my siblings when they needed me. I could use the fact that I am overwhelmed, nothing is working out for me. I mean, that's the story I was telling myself back then. My business is failing. You know, I cannot support you at the moment. I am way too overwhelmed. That was, and as soon as they would hear that, they would just be like, okay, and they would back off. So there was a certain degree of like me using the aspects of my life that weren't working out as a way to get myself out of certain situations. There was some benefit there for me. And that's just one aspect of it. So leaning into my power would get me to lose that specific benefit. It's almost as if we use our own darkness to sometimes excuse ourselves from taking some degree of responsibility. And here's the thing with light. Embracing your light will take away justification for your smallness. It will take that away. Because in order to embrace your light, you're going to have to meet your own pain to so many degrees. And, you know, it will prevent you from using the fact that you're hurting as a rationale, conscious or unconscious, not to actually go after things that really are meaningful to you. So that used to be a big avoidance of responsibility. Responsibility was burdening. And here's another thing. There is responsibility that comes from really embracing our light. And when we are in survival, we have a tendency to think that these responsibilities are actually burdening us. Whereas what they do, they are refining us. They're expanding our capacity to actually be precisely what we know that deep down we can be. So that's another aspect that is adding to that resistance, which is how do you relate to responsibility? Are you relating to it from the perception, from the perspective of the younger aspect of you that feels disempowered and hurt? Or are you relating to it from the perspective of the empowered adult that you've become? Because that is another reason why sometimes we happen to feel tremendously stuck. There is discomfort that comes with the integration of your light. And that discomfort can include, like we talked, navigating feelings of unworthiness and a lot of self doubt, feeling inadequate, a lot of dark night of the ego, as I like to call it, because sometimes you're going to have to shift identities and let go of former identities. And usually we have a huge attachment to our former identities. And because of that, it's really challenging to move forward. So we resist our light. Here's another aspect that is really seductive about staying, attached to our smallness, if I'm going to put it this way. One thing that usually many people that are spiritually inclined, working on becoming better, do not want to confess to themselves is that to a certain degree we trust our darkness way more than we trust our light. What do I mean by that? Pay attention to the things that you feel most ashamed about. You keep them in the dark. Pay attention to the things that the deepest pains, you keep them in the dark. Pay attention to the things that you don't feel proud of, you keep them in the dark. We keep in the dark so many of the things that we feel are not good enough, virtuous enough. Why? Because light sees it all. In order to embrace all light or empowerment, there's this healing exposure. Light illuminates, and I'm just speaking about light from the physics aspect of it. It illuminates everything without an agenda. It will illuminate the beautiful, the ugly, and every single thing in between. So usually, the fear of seeing ourselves for who we truly are, and our magnificence included, is one of the reasons why we resist our light. Because, in my opinion, we have bought into a big illusion that when we embrace our light, we will only be this collection of pristine parts, magnificent, almost flying above our humanness. The reality is, your light does not disown anything. It will shine on every single aspect of you, and it will invite you to actually reclaim the fullness of who you are. Ugly, dirty, magnificent, beautiful, all of it. So, in my opinion, the journey of a lifetime is about really embracing the fullness of who we are. It's about integration. And that resistance, there is a way to work through it. Because resistance is not a sign that you should beat yourself up or that you're not working hard enough. No, that is not what resistance is. In my opinion, resistance is a pointer. It is pointing at the aspects of you where there is fragmentation. It is pointing at the aspects of your psyche where you are not in coherence and congruent. And resistance is actually an invitation to lean towards it and to create a sense of inner unity. And if this is something that you are willing to work on, it will require that instead of looking at resistance as an opposing force, you actually begin to look at resistance as a part of the way. It is not in the way. It is not against you. It is not trying to ruin your life. Your resistance usually has beneath it a part of you that needs your attention, a need that you need to look at. And sometimes even your intuition can hide beneath your resistance. So it's not something to be disregarded. It is not something to shame yourself for. It is not something where you just need to power through. And if that's something that you're working on, if you're realizing that some aspects of your life are going slow because of some degree of resistance that you aren't able to sort out, Friday, September 22nd, I will be hosting a free live community event called the Alchemy of Resistance. And I'll be taking you through a proven process that will help you identify your resistance, receiving the hidden wisdom beneath your resistance. I will take you through a somatic journey that will allow you to actually transcend, transmute, and integrate so that you can create from a more harmonious place. The link will be in the description. I'm looking forward to seeing you there. As always, if you aren't subscribed yet, I'm inviting you to like and subscribe, send it to people who might need it. I would love to read your comments in the comment section. Thank you for being here, and I will see you soon.